Beatrice and Courtney May. Clark, can you swing another test against Bonnie's DNA?
This time I'll be sure to have them verify both samples in person.
Using the family tree you filled out, as well as DNA tests, Clark's handling the business. But I've come to thank you, and but that's the kind of time we've been having. Like I said, Guy had a frankly ridiculous number of potential children. What shocked me is how many graduated from potential to confirmed. We can even prove he was aware of them. The smoking gun was how he used company money to pay off a lot of women. He hid it with a method inspired by his idol, Elias. 5-piece flavors. He developed flavors based on the initials of the women he was paying. Which was really stupid, considering one of their names started with X. Let's start with Christine. Guy was paying her under the name Caviar. But there were some other clues. Christine was there with Guy, and when she got pregnant, she panicked. Steve stepped up. He even turned it into one of his recipe stories. Not all of Guy's affairs led to offspring. He may have slept with Robin Martin, but she didn't have children, so we'll never know. Also, not every child of Guy's affair partners were his. Robert Garland was born after his parents had already moved to Boston. Skipping Beatrice for now. Up next is Leng Xinyu. When Guy showed up in China, when she got pregnant, her father paid key genes to fake IVF. But her sister and Jerry had their own son, Mark. Sonia Alves was soon after. She resented him. I don't blame her. Guy was in Brazil during Christmas 1979. It's the only Christmas not in the records. Flavio was born 9 months later. Last was Susan Ford, hired to translate for Guy's overseas trips. It's easy to read into Guy's donation to her school. She and Guy were witnessed together. Susan's husband was convinced he couldn't be the father of her daughters. Guy, though, paid double. So, what about 5Ps? Felix Fellow's mother, Joanna, doesn't have a 5 pieces flavor. His mother already left the company by the time Guy became president. Alone, that wouldn't necessarily prove it. They both... Ruby was the one who approached the Roottrees to begin with. Ruby and Felix saw my book's challenge. His mother really had worked for Roottree. She exploited my family's greed. If you look at the 2 DNA tests that Ruby handled, they were both supposedly tested against Bonnie Hudson. But the 2 signatures that should both represent Bonnie don't match. We suspect Ruby had Donatico test Felix against his own mother's DNA. On the second test, Bonnie's sample was tested locally, but Courtney May's was not. Ruby's been throwing away samples. We think she sent her own hair. Ruby and Felix were a noble effort. But once they controlled the family fortune, they became just as greedy as the worst members of my family. They were so eager to personally wield the wealth for their own cause. That finally brings us to Anonymom, aka Beatrice Watts. She even approached Ruby before 5Ps was on news time. Ruby used Beatrice's truths to make Felix's lies feel real. I feel worst for her in all of this. While Ruby and Felix stole the show, there were some other potential new family members as well. Miracle Roottree was less of an open and shut case. That said, it's very likely he had a son with Mary Beth Clementine, not Stuart. Mary Beth adopted him before she ever set foot in Butler County. He showed up about 9 months after Mary Beth visited Miracle. If that's not enough on its own, he was also bailed out by the sister of Edith Roottree, Miracle Jr.'s wife. Our best guess is that Mark was told by his mother whose son he was, and used that fact to put some pressure on Miracle Jr. We have no real proof of that, but nothing. Elias's affair was the most ambiguous. Gwyneth was able to coerce Elias to do things he wouldn't have otherwise done. My son even mentioned them arguing about someone named Beth. Combined with Gwyneth's lisp, it's possible the name was actually Bess. Unfortunately, all we know about Bess Williams is that she wrote his book and died not long after. The timeline fits with Wildcat, but there's no record if she had any other relationship. I wouldn't be surprised if Elias cheated. Of course, I'm a bit biased. That means we haven't been able to do a DNA test. As Clark mentioned. Lastly, we have a bit of a curveball. Ron Roottree isn't related to us by blood. When Ron and Robbie went to visit their mother at the end of her life, something changed. Additionally, there have been a few rumors circling around Ron. At the same time, Ron's wife Penelope began doing benefits for Huntington's disease. Huntington's is the same disease that Gwyn's former co-star Leslie Florence had. Because Gwyn and Wild Bill didn't have Huntington's, and Ron seems to, it's impossible Gwyn was his mother. At the end of her life, Gwyn told Ron the story. Leslie wasn't likely to survive to see her child grow up. And even Gwyn did. Mere weeks after she found out she was having her own son, she also took in Ron. Wild Bill was a problem. Unreliable and a serial adulterer, Gwyn had already told Starlet she was pregnant, so it never really made waves when people saw her with a child in Paris. There was gossip during her divorce when she was discovered to be pregnant again. To lay low, she stayed in Paris long enough that even her own family never had reason to question the timeline. It's one heck of a story, and frankly, nobody could be expected to piece the timeline together, not with what few mentions of Gwyn's past have survived. Ron suing Robbie to remove him from the Clancet Trust was a huge moment in my story. Finding out that it's been pretty much backwards this whole time has been a bit surreal. So that's where we're at. Looking over the information you sent us was invaluable. You got everything absolutely correct. Why did we even bother hiring a team? You figured it all out solo. All this information, this entire story. It's a lot. We're handling it all very, very carefully. And with that, I guess our tale has finally. No words can express how grateful I am to you. Honestly, I've had enough of my family's eccentricities and scandals for one lifetime. And if not, well, there's always Elias's and Gwyneth's brothers and sisters.
Attention, attention, Roottrees. This is 5 Piece coming at you from the real world. You know, the place you ain't ever lived in.
You say money is the root of all your problems. Root of all your problems.
Y'all are hypocrites, sitting back in your massive estates, built from the cash that your ancestors gave you, acting like you somehow deserve it, based on your family's creations. Yo.